Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Your video is about to start on all things Social Security. Just a quick reminder, we are here every day, 9 a.m. with some sort of tip or tidbit for you. And we are here generally on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for live stream, live Q&As on everything Social Security. So feel free to pop in a timely fashion and I will answer your questions there too. Have a great one. Bye-bye. Hello, Maggie. Good to see you, Maggie. Hello, I'm in the middle of the function report. Oh, isn't that fun? Work history report, pain, migraine, and cardiac questionnaires. Oh, they gave you a handful. Guys, what she's talking about, which many of you may not have seen because it doesn't happen all the time. I would say most of the time the offices don't do this, but some of them do. It's like a proprietary almost additional questionnaires specific to certain allegations. Like if you allege pain is kind of disabling, they might give you a pain questionnaire. Migraine, same idea. They want to get to the details of the migraines and cardiac and all that. That's just specific to that particular adjudicator and or office, that's how they do it. So it's more work for you, but it is what it is, right? Supposed to be due tomorrow. Any last minute tips? I'm looking at all your videos. Just answer the questions, and I always say, as a general rule, right? When you're answering the questions, you're focusing on the bad parts, not the good parts, because the bad parts is what they need to know about in order to see how truly limited you are. So I wouldn't use things like how often do you have a migraine? I sometimes have migraines. Like I wouldn't use vagaries like that. However, if it's very infrequently that you have them, like twice a year, it's probably not going to be disabling impairment anyway. But if a migraine, you get it once a week and it can last up to 2 days, that's 4 times a month, or you could say once a week, whichever way you want. Sometimes it's a range. Some people will say, well, on a good month, I'll only get 2 of them, and on a bad month, I'll get 6. They probably are asking you in there about any additional symptoms like nausea, photophobia, phonophobia, all those kind of things. If you're bedridden for your migraines, that's really important because, we talk about this. Some people say a migraine when really it's a bad headache. Like if you can drive your car and run an errand or go to the doctor's, you probably aren't having the kind of migraine that would be disabling. So you don't want to look like you're claiming something when it's not nearly as bad as that. So you don't want to over exaggerate. It'll come out in the wash. So you just saw a little clip from one of our live Q&As. It might leave you more questions, particularly if you had a little piece of that applied to you and some more facts that would make things different. If you do, feel free to put a comment down below about the extra details, and we could maybe even make a video on the particular aspects of that you'd be interested in. So in any event, I hope to see you on Wednesdays, 1:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also 9:00 a.m. every day, we have a share from the field, so to speak, of things that happen in our workday. So hope to see you then, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye. Hey, so if the subject matter of the video you just listened to is of interest and you want more on it, stay tuned. Here's another one about the same topic, but a little bit different. Bye now. Happy Father's Day. Okay, really quick, a little blurb here about the importance of keeping a symptoms journal, particularly for a certain few impairments that are really served well by them when you're trying to prove your claim of disability, where a significant part of your inability to work on a regular and consistent or reliable basis is due to one of these impairments. It could probably be done with a ton of impairments, but the ones that come to my mind screamingly are migraines, seizures, and a more rare instance of something called cyclical vomiting syndrome. If I think of more, I'll mention them as we go along. But a symptom journal is worth its weight in gold. It's not going to be the medical proof that you have the condition, but it is great support after that has already been established. And 2 years later, you're at a hearing and you're testifying as to the frequency of how often that migraine puts you in bed for 1 to 3 days, 6 hours, whatever the case may be. Having a retrospective journal that was created in real time, usually done the day after. It could be when the migraine's over. Some people, once they're back on their feet and it's just starting to go away and they know it's on its way out. So you want to do it close in time. You're obviously not going to do it in the middle of a migraine, or that migraine's not very bad. Seizures, same idea. Now, for instance, if you were doing a migraine journal. It's like a calendar. You can do it on a regular calendar. You can get it at the dollar store. I've even prepared some for my clients just so they had something to print out. You know, if it's a migraine day, you could put M. If it lasted 6 hours, you might throw in 6H. If it lasted 3 days, you'd have maybe M in one day, and next day, M in the third day, maybe with a line connecting them, or M 3 days, however you want to notate it. You're going to want to use short abbreviations because you want it to fit in it. I'm not asking you to do a narrative every day you have a migraine, because the only thing you're trying to establish is frequency, duration, potentially severity, and some of the accompanying symptoms. So if you're, for instance, let's say you have noise sensitivity. Most people do, NS. Light sensitivity, LS. Bedridden, maybe you would say B. You know, you'd have the big M, it's a migraine day, little B. What if you were bedridden in a dark room? Maybe BDR. So all these little with commas in between them or whatever, just a little legend of sorts, abbreviations. So that day, because later on, someone like me will take that information and we will parse it down into the amount of times per month that you are bedridden because of migraine. You got to remember that being off task from work includes any time you can't be working. So if you are bedridden with something like a migraine, which to me, migraine by definition is so severe, no one can really work. I mean, if they're working, they probably have a headache and not a migraine, my opinion. So the journaling is great. I've used it on a multitude of occasions successfully. Again, it doesn't replace what your doctor needs to say, but you know, in the middle of treatment, long before a hearing, you can send up potentially your journal or a summary of your journal to your doctor and say, this is how frequently I'm having them. Even we see if there's any kind of tweaking of the medications that can maybe bring down these numbers, because it's obviously a quality destructor in your life. And that's separate and aside from the fact that it takes away from the ability to work. A impairment that causes, like I mentioned before, the cyclical vomiting syndrome. That particular case, the person, we determined from the calendar that he had been keeping before I even knew him, which was fabulous. It took a long time to get a judge to pay attention to it, but when it did, it clinched it for him for a very long back benefit period. They were vomiting. The vomiting days, you know, originally for him, it would be like multitude of days. And then he actually had H's down for hospitalization because the symptoms were so bad that they could be almost death threatening because of the dehydration. So when the hospitalization stopped, when he learned techniques to stop that severity, the journals did a great thing for proving that the vomiting days, which was 6 to 9 a month, I think it was continuing. It's just that he had learned some terrific techniques to mitigate the dehydration. Some really interesting things, including a hot shower while drinking a glass of water. But it helped prove that just because he's no longer going to the hospital, you don't see these hospitalizations like we had been seeing for a number of years, doesn't mean it's not happening. Because if they think it's not happening, then now he's better and he can go back to work full time on a reliable, sustained basis without calling out sick. Not the case. Another one I just thought of, IBS. Huge, huge, huge important. This one would be a little different because a lot of times IBS, it's for many days or weeks straight, right? Sometimes it's just every day. Everyone's case is different. But I think it's important to show how many times you were in the bathroom in a given day. So this would be every day you're going to fill this out. Maybe keep it in your bathroom and just grab it. And how long you're in there per visit. And again, this goes to off task, which is a really critical part of work failure. If someone has to go to the bathroom every 40 minutes and is in there for 15, that is going to be, I'm not going to do the math right now, but let's say it's 10 times in a work day for 15 minutes. That's 150 minutes there in the bathroom during the workday. That's like 2.5 hours. Now we no longer have an 8-hour working day, do we? We have 5.5 hours. And that's excluding anything else that's a problem. So documenting how many minutes, and it doesn't have to be that often. I mean, it can still be quite limiting without it being as often as I just mentioned. But if the duration in the bathroom is a long time and the frequency, the amount of visits to the bathroom that are going to be required during the day, some people have incontinence and they have to be very close to a bathroom. This could be true for incontinence of both kinds, and also for urinary urgency potentially. Because a lot of time when someone suffers from that, they keep going to the bathroom thinking they're going to go, and they don't, and then they finally do, but they had to go maybe, a bunch of trips to the bathroom before they were able to void. So all these trips to the bathrooms are time you're taking away from your workstation. So really important. So again, the IBS might keep you out of work, and it might be an attendance thing, in which case you could document that you were like literally never left the house because to go to work, you had to call out because you were in the bathroom for hours. If there are accompanying symptoms, pain, cramping, some people end up vomiting. Sometimes the IBS is constipation, sometimes it's diarrhea, sometimes it's a mixture. Little abbreviations that help which ones they were, and do it every day so that there's a clear picture of how many times a month this is happening for how long. And later on, what your attorney can do is obviously get a copy of all that stuff, and you can do it on your phone calendar, or some people do it on paper calendar. We put together the math, and we explain, well, judge, you can literally chart out which months had 8 days, which months had 4, let's say it was migraines, or if it's IBS, how many minutes per day on average. We can present it in a variety of ways. The actual calendar would be attached to a certified statement from you saying, this is my calendar, this means this, like this. You would explain the legend and why you keep this, to document your symptoms, just to see if medicines are working, when it's getting better, if your whole system is getting worse. And so you're going to be attesting to the factuality of the information and what the symbols mean and abbreviations. And then like someone like me would be doing a letter to the judge just explaining what this whole packet, we don't want him to have to do the math, basically. I mean, he's not going to do it. So we explain it and why it's relevant to the case of disability. So consider that. I would say, for people also who have to go elevate their legs due to swelling or due to pain multiple times a day, or for like 1 or 2 long stints a day, some people have to do it midday for 2 hours. Their swelling gets bad or the pain gets bad. It could be napping too, irrelevant from the leg pain, although it's going to be maybe a little bit more difficult. But if you, by the way, if you do elevate, if you can, and there's nuances to this, but I've seen judges reject a claimant's description of how often he has to elevate his legs to reduce swelling if they don't see it as a recommended medical home remedy recommended by the doctor, the treating doctor. I find that to be kind of disingenuous, only because you can go on a ton of medical sites with good, fine reputations that will all say that when you suffer edema and swelling, that elevating the legs above the heart can be really helpful to bring down that swelling. So doing it intermittently during the day can help stay on top of that, in addition to other things like compression stockings and taking probably the medication they want you to take. But without the doctor mentioning it, particularly recommending it. So you might want to ask your doctor, hey, I found that, and I don't want to go into how you should actually present it to your doctor. I would think a doctor would be more than happy to say, yeah, of course, that's going to be a good idea. But for some reason, having it in the medical records show up as a recommendation can score points and back up the fact that you do it. If you can't get that from your doctor, you can always report that you are elevating your legs more frequently than you wish. And you can report all this, including migraine issues and stuff like that, through the messaging section of your portal, because they all have portals, right? Almost all of them. And then you know that you have specifically told them, and it's going to show up that you told them the severity of how often you have to do this. And, normally you would be asking about that and suggesting that because you want to go over that at your next doctor appointment to see if there's any remedies or therapies that can help reduce that. Because again, it's taken away from the quality of your life, and it's certainly already taken away from your ability to work full-time reliably. Journal. I'll probably do a different video on the helpfulness of communicating yourself with your doctor at times other than when you visit in front of him, which can be kind of infrequent, right? So look out for that. But the symptom journal, definitely keep it. When in doubt, keep it. You may not end up using it for the impairments that I just discussed. It would be immensely helpful, but there's other ones that it probably would too. I would err on the side of caution and just do it, because if you don't, you cannot go back and change time. All right. It's already done in real time, or you just lost that chance. And that's something that doesn't cost you anything to do except seconds or minutes each day. Okay. So hope you start doing it. And if you have any questions, you know where to reach me. Have a great day. Bye.